Welcome to Live at 12:05. My name is Rachel and I'm the curator here at the Isle of Wight County Museum. Today we're going to be showing off a really cool collection of mended pieces that we recently got in from Archaeological and Cultural Solutions, Inc. And so it's really interesting with the archaeologists. A lot of times you're doing a lot of work across an entire site and you may find pieces of the same piece of pottery, plate, bowl. We even have a tea bowl here as well. So a lot of different pieces, but you may find them either maybe in the same hole or you may find them kind of scattered across the entire site. So one of the cool things with this particular collection is that Archaeological and Cultural Solutions, Inc., some of their archaeologists and staff have gone through and basically put together the puzzle of where some of these pieces that do go together, possibly again from one hole or several different unit holes. So we'll talk about that a little bit and show off some of that with each of these pieces as well. But they've basically put the puzzle back together again and mended a lot of these items. And so we have, good portions of a plate. We have good portions of some of these bowls. There's even a little punch bowl, and done really the research for us in a lot of times too, to show us kind of a little bit more about each one of these pieces. So a lot of these pieces are pearlware. They're from the Windsor Castle property, and we're gonna dive right in and get a little bit closer look at a couple of these pieces. Pearlware starts to become popular in the late 18th and early 19th century. We do find it in a lot of Virginia and early US archaeological sites. These ones are very appropriate time period, because we do know that the house at Windsor Castle was constructed probably about 1720 to 1725. So having it be more late 18th century pottery here is very appropriate for that particular archaeological site. So I mentioned that some of them you find a lot of pieces kind of all over the place on an archaeological site. The one that I want to show you first definitely exemplifies that. So we can see here in the notes that these pieces are from 4 different units, and we have the mended piece here. It is a punch bowl. It's got a beautiful design on it there, and we'll take a little bit closer look as well. A nice, beautiful punch bowl with a really delicate design on it. So those have been mended from several different units, several different dig holes, basically. All right, we've got this piece here. This one's from about 1800 to 1820, so circa 1800 to 1820 is the date that we have for this particular piece. This one also comes from 4 different spots in the archaeological site. So again, putting that puzzle together and really looking at a lot of the different pieces from all over the archaeological site. Typically it is going to have the identification number for the actual site. So we can see the 44IW, which stands for Isle of Wight. So this is very clearly an Isle of Wight County location, Isle of Wight County archaeological site. And then it'll have additional information, usually about the unit number and that kind of thing. And typically within the report or in some of the appendices, we'll be able to see a list of all of those units, where they're located, that sort of thing. But this is the official identification number for the site, and certainly right away we can identify what county it's from. This has a beautiful rim here. You can see it's got a lot of the features have been put back together on this piece, and gives us a really good idea of what this particular pearlware tea bowl would have looked like when it was whole. Pearlware is also interesting in that it is kind of a more cost-effective, cheaper version of China. Basically, China is really expensive, and so they're trying to come up with other beautiful potteries that can replace that. With pearlware in particular, sometimes it has a little bit of a blue tint or blue hue to it, and that has to do with the fact that sometimes cobalt is added to the process, in which case we get a little bit of a blue tint to it. It is a lead-based glaze that is pretty typical for a lot of our early pottery as well. But they're trying to create just these kind of much thinner, delicate looking pieces to compete with the more expensive china. This is a piece of pearlware as well. We see a really lovely rim on what used to be a plate. This one actually all came from one particular hole, one particular dig unit. And a very similar piece over here, though not quite the same green, but a very similar plate here as well. Still pearlware. This one came from 2 different spots in the archaeological site, and some pretty nice large chunks here as well. So this one's not quite as intense as some of the mended pieces. There were some where we're talking 60, 70 tiny pieces that have been put back together again. So some of the mended pieces are definitely pretty intense. We've got this lovely piece as well, delicate little rim. And again, I feel like this just really exemplifies what I was saying earlier, that they're trying to sort of mimic China, and they're trying to create these much thinner, kind of dainty pieces that can somewhat compete with the more expensive China. Beautiful blue rim, really delicate, thin pieces, as well as really delicate designs on it as well. These are still things that are often being imported, and they are trying to kind of duplicate the China, but it's still a much more cost-effective piece. So still really beautiful pieces, still probably somewhat expensive or hard to get pieces. So it really does show us an affluent, house scene. It gives us a little bit of an idea about who's living there and how they're living. So we're still seeing really beautiful, and look how intricate some of these are. We're still seeing these beautiful, intricate pieces that would have definitely impressed the neighbors and anyone who came to visit. So still very impressive, very delicate pieces. A lot of the colonial ware and even some of the earlier pottery that we see, it's still very, very thick, you know what I mean? So having a lot of these really thin, dainty pieces, I would say they were probably pretty competitive and comparable to the delicate features of China that people were trying to kind of show off and duplicate with this pearlware. But it does become super popular. We see it in a lot of archaeological sites over here, but obviously still we're talking about a lot of stuff that's being imported or is expensive to have someone make it for you. So still really showing off the wealth and affluence of the family that's living there, the Arthur Smith family. I thought this one was really kind of impressive. We can see how these different pieces have kind of aged a little bit as well, right? They're all a little bit different pieces. They're a little bit different colors, so possibly possibly it started to maybe break down a little bit or got a little bit more scuffed up. We can see that the glaze has actually been damaged off of these portions here, and we're looking just at the clay itself. But really amazing how we've taken this piece that I would say is a little bit less obvious that these pieces go together, and they've done a great job of putting that puzzle back together again. Really interesting design here. I feel like it gives us a little bit of an idea of what it might have looked like when it was whole. It still has a little bit of mystery to it. Is it some sort of star design? What was the overall scene that was on this one? We might have to do some research and look a little bit further into that to see what the whole scene might have looked like. And that is all of the pieces that I have to show you today. We just pulled 5 pieces here. We're very excited to have these. We're hoping to do some improvements to our archaeological exhibit cases here in the Sprig Wing. Still give us a couple of months to get that started, but hopefully we'll be able to do some improvements in here and include some of these amazing mended pieces that we've gotten back into our collection, and some of the other archaeological sites and different sherds and artifacts and things that we have from some of our other sites that aren't on display quite yet. So we look forward to that, to some of those improvements, and we hope that you'll join us here at the Isle of Wight County Museum to visit some of these pieces in person once we get them on display in the near future. Thanks for joining us for another Live at 12:05, and we will see you again next week.